Topping today's news, the Prime Minister defends the Bahamas digital markets regulations. FTX U.S.-based lawyers say they do not trust the Bahamian authorities, and a $900 million investment project on tap for South Abaco. Good evening, Bahamas. I'm Jarino Saunders. This is your JCN Evening News. It's a pleasure to have you join us. We have the Digital Assets and Registered Exchanges Act, the DARE Act. We have several protocols that are in place, and there is also a published white paper policy on how the government is going to deal with the digital market space. And that is according to Prime Minister Philip Davis as he defends the Bahamas on what may appear as international attacks over the continuing saga of the collapse of FTX digital markets. Following the arrest and subsequent jailing of former CEO of FTX, Sam Bankman-Fried, and all that is playing out in bankruptcy courts in the United States, international media, social media users, and the like have been commenting that the Bahamas does not have a well-regulated digital assets industry or that the industry needs to be revamped. Well, Prime Minister Davis told a local television station on Wednesday that it is mind-boggling that there is argument over the country's financial regulatory regime. The Prime Minister notes that the Bahamas does have regulations in place and they are being carried out, and that is why the country is able to do what it has been doing to date. He adds that at the end of the day, it is having an understanding about what our regulatory regime is all about, and he encourages all to read the DARE Act. Meanwhile, FTX Digital Markets joint provisional liquidators from the Bahamas have asked a U.S. bankruptcy judge to allow them access to FTX's accounts and data. But FTX's U.S. lawyers are opposed to that demand for international records from the collapsed company, citing that they do not trust the Bahamian government with that information. James Bromley, attorney for FTX USA, is also making the accusation that the data could be used to withdraw assets from the company. International news agency Reuters reporting that liquidators of FTX's Bahamian business, FTX Digital Markets, has asked U.S. bankruptcy judge John Dorsey to give them access to the U.S. FTX division's Google, Slack, and Amazon web service accounts and data. The Delaware bankruptcy judge has said that the Bahamian joint provisional liquidators should have access to that data and information to run their own investigation here in the Bahamas as well. Mr. Bromley told Judge Dorsey that the Bahamian government has previously obtained information from FTX Digital Markets liquidators and used it to siphon digital assets away from FTX. Mr. Bromwell told the judge that this is dangerous information and that they do not trust the Bahamian government. The Securities Commission of the Bahamas has previously disputed what it describes as FTX's misstatements about the Bahamian government's response to FTX's collapse. Local crowdfunding company Abaco executives calling for a Whistleblower Act, as they believe such a legislation can prevent blows like the collapse of FTX Digital Markets from ever happening again. Chief Technical Officer and co-founder of the country's first ever crowdfunding platform, D.R.C. Raming Jr. says an Integrity Commission bill in 2017, primarily for people in government, has a section on whistleblowers that could apply to regulated financial services entities, and says he believes a proper system that protects whistleblowers will strengthen existing laws that are already in place. As he admits, the jurisdiction has taken a reputational hit globally because of the FTX collapse. He says the Bahamas is a nation of laws and enforcement, and he thinks the regulators and law enforcement are doing the best they can given the enormity of the situation regarding the FTX collapse. Mr. Raming believes the Whistleblower Act would give people the comfort to come forward and not to worry about being victimized by industry and powerful people. He noted that many senior staff at Abaco have been whistleblowers in the past, and the system did not protect them. A $900 million development is underway on South Abaco. The Davis administration signing a heads of agreement with the Harrell Family Trust for the development of a new resort project in South Abaco. South and Central Abaco Member of Parliament John Pinder says the resort will provide much-needed job opportunities for the residents, which will further accelerate the rebound and recovery of the island in the aftermath of Hurricane Dorian. Mr. Pinder believes the development is a monumental step forward for South Abaco.
The workforce in South Abaco will have somewhere to go besides driving all the way to Central, where the economy is now centric. So it is important for the people of South Abaco to be able to feed their families, to be able to have a career, and the youth to have a future right there in South Abaco. This is going to grow Abaco tremendously. It is a step forward in my plans to bring a greater economic output out of Abaco. And I'm really excited. This is going to be a good project. And I will, you'll hear more about it as time goes, but this project is all developed on private land. Over $800 million of development will be put on this private land, and it is a good project. It is a sound project, and it is a sustainable project for South Abaco.
The project started some 15 years ago under the Ingram administration and is $15 million into its development stage. Trustee of the Harrell Family Trust, Steve Harrell, says this project was a commitment made long time ago to South Abaconians, and it is intended that the project is built to be meaningful to them and their day-to-day livelihoods.
We're committed to partnering with entrepreneurs from South Abaco financially to ensure that all of the support services that's needed in South Abaco will be manned and owned by the people of South Abaco. I'm personally committed to the town of Sandy Point, and I really want to raise that standard of living in that town in general, be it through maybe our net profits, but definitely through our foundation giving. And we're just excited, over the moon.
The developers of the project are proposing a world-class, environmentally sustainable luxury island retreat with local appeal and community participation while maintaining the natural charm of the environment. It is also slated to include a marina and a golf course, along with branded hotels. The project is expected to be completed in 2032. And finally, in this segment, despite his legal battles, F&M Member of Parliament for Long Island, Adrian Gibson, continues to make meaningful contributions to the various debates in the House of Assembly. And on Monday, as parliamentarians began debate on the new National Investment Bill that will repeal and replace the Sovereign Wealth Fund Act of 2016, Mr. Gibson made some salient points about the nation's natural resources. We hear more on what he had to say in this next report. The embattled Member of Parliament for Long Island, Adrian Gibson, spoke strongly during his contribution on debate of the new National Investments Bill. Mr. Gibson says he welcomes the new bill and the idea of taking inventory of exactly what natural resources we have, where they are located, and hopefully their potential value. Because for far too long, the natural resources have not been properly used to benefit the Bahamian people.
I must applaud my good friend, the member for Golden Isles, for seeking to catalog the natural resources that we have in the Bahamas. Okay? Because he knows one of my great concerns with respect to natural resources in this country. Sadly, our natural resources have been exploited for far too long. And the benefit of those natural resources hasn't come to Bahamians. Okay? More often than not, the profits have been expatriated or sent out of the country and it has fallen into the hands of foreign entities. They've enriched themselves of Bahamian natural resources.
Mr. Gibson, who is the former executive chairman of the Water and Sewage Corporation, says one of the most important natural resources in the Bahamas, which has already been identified and mapped out by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, is water. Unfortunately, he says, in his view, the Bahamas is being taken advantage of in regards to our natural water supplies.
And I stand on this. We should not have any foreign entity exploiting our water resources, extracting our water and selling it back to us at premium rates. That's a no-no. I want to say another word, but this is the Parliament. Okay? But that's a no-no. I've seen water sales where foreign entities. It's difficult to stop it, Western and West Grand Bahama and Bimini, when you inherit a 20-year contract. Okay, and when folks are saying, hey, we are going to cut off water to this island, that island, this island, that island, multiple islands at the same time. It's very difficult.
Mr. Gibson went on to give examples of how foreign-owned water companies use intimidation, blackmail, and extortion tactics against the government, especially around election times, to receive payments. Mr. Gibson then focused on the management structure of the new National Investments Bill, which he says gives the government too much influence in regards to the Sovereign Wealth Fund.
I was speaking about the power of the minister in this proposed bill. Frankly, Mr. Deputy, I think that power is too wide. And this is not particularized to a person. This is to the actual office. I think when you look at an independent board, I think some of the powers of the minister might be an imposition on the board. So, for example, you have a section 17, where a minister may give directives in writing regarding the use of funds of a fund and a revenue mandate. I think I'm not comfortable with the idea of that being imposed in a particular minister per se, when there's a board of governors as well. And I think that usurps to a degree the power of that board.
Members of the government side assured Mr. Gibson his concerns regarding the government's influence will be noted. During his contribution, Mr. Gibson also noted the bill does not speak clearly to how the government seeks to monetize or quantify the natural resources so that Bahamians can benefit. We'll take a break here. We'll be right back after these commercials.